What's up, pretty people? Last time I checked, my name was still Bins, and I am glad to welcome you back to the Shapez BEASTMAM series. Last video, we spoke about how this machine handles the uncolored shapes for flat pieces, everything from the inputs over combining, smelting, and cutting over to rotating the quadrants and realigning them in a certain pattern that would fit our painter modules. And well, today we're gonna have a look at those painter modules. So, Chapter 5A, Episode 1B, Section 2, Paint. Alright, let's get to it. So, this is our painter module, and now maybe the first clever thing to do would be take a shape that sends some paint through those machines, wouldn't it? So, yeah, how about this one? Just this shape that corresponds to a certain level in the regular series. I don't exactly know which level that is, but that will give us a nice paint flow right here. You can see the shapes. We talked about that last time. Today we're going to have a look at the paint. Now, first remark I would like to make is if you've been wondering about this weird bend right here, why I have that, well, that has to do with the wiring layer. I needed to put in these filters to allow paint to pass into the painter module. And yeah, well, on the wiring layer, it's pretty jam-packed with stuff, and the only place I had to connect these filters was down here, and that's why we have this weird bend and this pretty long line that seems excessively long at first glance, okay? Next decision I made, well, this is a painter module, and it is, a color mixer module, and it is extremely long, right? It could be made a lot shorter, but the reason I decided to do this is because it is also very small. This is actually 4 mixers stacked on top of each other, and a single mixer is only 3 cells high, and in compensation, that's why it is so long. So let's look at that thing in isolation, perhaps. Let's go here to the demo zone. This is what this looks like. And all in all, I don't think it's the worst of color mixers. It is pretty long, I will admit that. But yeah, all in all, we do need 4 of these stacked on top of each other because each of these flat piece modules deals with 4 quadrants that may have a different color each, right? So I need 4 of these. And the way this works is actually fully devoid of wiring as well. I decided on that because there is a lot of stuff going on in the wiring layer. And yeah, I wanted to keep this space available for wiring. It turns out that in the end, I didn't really need it all that much. But yeah, I just wanted to play safe so that in case I did need wiring, I would have that space right here. So the way this works is actually pretty straightforward. If we have a primary color, which means red, green, or blue, then thanks to this storage setup right here, that color will always be output on the middle lane, and it will automatically pass into this bypass mechanism. So we get that color at the end of the line, right? And if I do that with green, for example, instead of red, then you will see that it will also get redirected to this middle lane right here. There we go. Same thing with blue. That's the way that works. Now, if we get a secondary color, like for example, yellow, then they will automatically be sorted on I believe it's the top 2 lanes, right? Yeah, so the top 2 lanes. If this top lane is used, then it will be tunneled until it comes out right here. And that's where it will meet up with the other lane that uses the bypasses right here. So I made use of the mini storage to create this bypass in case we didn't get both of the inputs in the first color mixer module. So in this case, it will move into the second color mixer module. There we go. And out comes yellow. Now let's look at cyan. when we get cyan, green will be redirected here. And yeah, because both of these lines go in here, now green or blue will come out here at the top and move into the middle lane, and green will move here. So in this case, the first set of color mixers is used, and then in the second set, they will bypass that, and out the end comes cyan. Finally, purple, similar story, but the redirection is a bit different. So again, here we are using the final color mixer module. So these are, in case it wasn't clear, 2 color mixer modules, one after the other. And finally, if we need white, well, then we will get, I believe, cyan in the first session, or the first take, the first leg, so to speak. And then red is tunneled below, and then cyan plus red will make white. Now, it does take some time for these machines to get to the color they need. However, all in all, it will still be slower than the piece modules, right? Because they need to be rotated and split, and they might need to be combined and then smelted and then laser cut, normal cut, redirected, whatever. And by that time, these color inputs, they will be outputting. So even if it takes some time to make it to the next color, they will still be in time to meet up with the actual shape inputs. From there, we have a pretty straightforward story, I believe. So we move into 4 dual painter lanes. And the important part here is that these lanes will always be top right, bottom left, top left. So in clockwise rotation, starting from the top right, okay? And here's the interesting thing. When we are dealing with smelted pieces, then we are not always going to need all of these lanes, because if we have smelted pieces, then we will have fewer than 4 lanes coming out of this sorter module. And in that case, for simplicity's sake, I am actually still going to input all of the colors on all of the quadrants, and a lot of them will be wasted. That's just the way it's going to be. And all in all, I found that an easier approach, because coming up with some kind of system that would figure out which of these lanes we need and which of the colors we would have to output from the color mixer units, that was a bit too complex for me. So I decided to, just output all of the colors, whether we were going to need it or not. So that's why you see that we have 4 lanes of yellow paint coming in, while we actually need only 2 of them, okay? The painter units themselves, they are pretty straightforward. So they're gonna have a check for the correct shape, and if not, we just trash it. We are going to have the same thing for the color. So if we switch from one side to the other, then the erroneous color, the old color, can get trashed right away. And that is kind of important because we are dealing with a dual painter module. And as you know, probably, or if you don't, I'm going to tell you now, the dual painter only needs half of a belt of paint input for a full belt of shape input. And that is also why you see, for example, that I have these overflow storages right here connected with trash cans, because the flow of this belt is going to be half of a belt's worth at most. And if we let this shape run for a long time, then while these modules output a full belt and these ones consume only half of one, we would end up with jams and clogs and whatnot. So that's why I have these overflow storages right here, so that prior to them, we ensure a full flow, a complete flow of the belts, and we trash a lot of paint. So resource-wise, this is not efficient, but it's going to be pretty fast in the end. Then what else do we have? We have a filter right here that determines whether we need the paint units at all or not. If we don't, we are going to match that off with a gray signal, which we will look at on the wiring layer later. But if we do get gray shapes, then those shapes will take the output lane right here and move straight into the output of the painters. Then after that, those 4 are going to run into a stacker unit. And I really like this stacker unit. I'm proud of it, so I'd like to show it to you. Let's include the wiring as well. The wiring is super simple for this one. This is all the wires we need. And the way this is going to work is as follows. Our output is right here in this case. Suppose we only have one of these 2 inputs. Let's say we have something like this. Top right red circle quadrant. Then it is going to, first of all, this filter is going to be operated by this belt reader right here. So if we have only one of 2 lanes incoming, then the top one will be redirected to the bottom one. And obviously, if we have the bottom one, then it doesn't really matter. So let's put in a yellow quadrant in the bottom right corner right here, something like this. Then it is not going to matter. Now, the next thing that's going to happen is this thing right here. It is going to check the correct shape on the filter, and that is connected with this line right here. Now, if we do get a shape with both quadrants and we do need to use the stackers, in that case, we are going to have a 1 on this output line. And with a NOT gate, we are going to shut off this filter right here, and that will force the shapes into the stackers, right? If we don't have that, then the stackers will be bypassed and the shapes will just be output to this output lane right here. And in that case, this shape is going to apply. This is going to let the shape pass. And also, since we no longer have a 1 outputting from this belt reader, that will open up the filter right here and the shapes get to bypass entirely. That's basically how that works. I also added an overflow right here in case we deal with the shape, a change of shape, and the top route happens to output its shapes faster than the bottom one, something like that. That's why we have this. That's why we have this overflow thingy right here, right? That is how that works. So we have that going on, and we have that going on twice. Once here, once here. All of the pieces come together. We have the exact same copy of that once more. And then we have this little unit that I think is pretty interesting. It is an attempt of mine to make sure that we get a full belt of output exclusively, right? So the way that works is as follows. Let's see if do I have some space here? Yeah, I do. Let's put that there. And then, yeah, actually all I need to do is connect this wire right here. And then this thing, the other one is simply going to be a filter that checks for the shape. So let's put a belt reader right here, for example. We have our input lane right here and the output lane right there. So the thing that's going to happen is the following. Let's connect this first. This belt reader, as soon as it gets a shape, that will be connected to this filter right here. And this mechanism will ensure that we only allow the correct shape that we want to pass. If that happens, these shapes will move out the priority lane of the storage unit. They will move through this filter, and then they will initially be blocked by this filter, because this filter is connected to this belt reader right here. We will send these shapes into a loop and create a jam, a traffic jam, so to speak, a clog on purpose. And this will cause this top lane to back up, which will cause the storage unit to use its secondary output. That will trigger the belt reader, and that will allow these shapes to pass. And by that time, we will get a constant input on this belt reader. Because of the jam we create, the output of this lane is not going to be a full belt's worth. I don't know if you're with me. We're going to look at an example in just a sec, but this belt reader right here, it will stay triggered. And that way we can ensure that we get a full belt of output or nothing. It's not a flawless mechanism. In order to create a flawless mechanism, I would need more space, but this is like half and half, right? So if I put, let's say a unit like this, it will gather some shapes for a while, and then it will start outputting the full belt. Maybe let's look at a real life example. So let's get back to here. Sorry, a bit confused. Let's pause the game. I meant go back to the to our input. Let's take some different input, I guess. How about this one? And then you will see how this works in practice. I'm gonna do another thing, which is put an output belt right here, so you can see how this works. We're currently still flushing the previous shape, and then we're gonna get this this purple thing right here. So you see, it takes some time, but the color belts are going to be faster than the actual shape belts. So all in all, it doesn't really matter that much that these paint belts, they need some time to switch over. Right, so now this shape signal comes from right here. The shape signal that operates this filter, it's going to come from this belt reader right here. And this belt reader, well, it's going to have the proper shape sooner than these shapes make it, then the correct outputs make it into this filter. I don't know if that makes sense, right? But we're gonna get that, and only if we get the correct shape, then we are going to start this accumulation. It builds, it builds, it builds, and when it's full, then we are going to get the full output belt. And I wanted to do that because further down the stream, down the line, I wanted the switchover to be as clean as possible. That was basically my setup. So I preferred that these initial steps took a slightly longer time to get to a full belt, but then at least as soon as we start outputting, we get the full belt of the correct shape. That is my purpose right here. So let's put this back the way it was. There we go. And I think that is also what I wanted to talk to you about today. So it's actually pretty straightforward. We have these paint lines coming in. They are not the most efficient ones, I will admit that, but we also saw how that doesn't really matter because they only need to be more efficient than the shape inputs, and they are. So it doesn't really matter how quick they are, and it doesn't really matter that we could make them quicker if we wanted to, because in the end it wouldn't make a difference. The paint modules themselves, they are pretty straightforward. Thanks to our lane redirection mechanism that we talked about last video, we will always get the correct shapes in the correct lanes, and then they just move into these stacker units, which I invite you to copy. They're pretty efficient, if I may say so myself. And yeah, they have a bypass mechanism so that in all cases where we don't need all four of them, these shapes will simply be redirected the way they're supposed to be. You can see that in this case, we're only using one lane out of 4 because we are dealing with an entirely smelted layer. And in that case, everything is just bypassed as expected, and the full belt is output right here. Then they are going to come together in later stages of the machine that we will still talk about in future episodes. But all in all, I think we can wrap it up for today. Nothing too difficult compared to some of the other videos we've done, but I think it's a nice change of pace to have you know, a more straightforward video every once and again. So having said that, I want to thank you for watching. I hope you're excited for the upcoming videos. If you are, please feel free to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you get those updates. And if you want to leave a thumbs up or a nice comment, that's always greatly appreciated. So thank you once again. I've been Vince. Have a great day. I am out. Take care. Bye-bye.